Hey, my name is Tara Humphrey and welcome to our Primary Care Network YouTube channel for those of you involved in the day-to-day leadership and management of your primary care network. So in this video, which accompanies our blog with the same title, I wanted to share with you some of my thoughts around what we should focus on in Q4. I've been creating this blog series titled What to Focus on in Q1 or Q2, Q3 and now Q4, just as a bit of a framework to help me focus on the stuff that's not urgent, but the stuff that is important. And 90 days takes the pressure off. I don't have to do everything like in the first week of January. I can sit down, I can plan the who, what, kind of, and how and when I need these certain activities, so I don't get to the end of the year and think, oh crap, I've not done X, Y, and Z. So that's kind of the rationale. So what are we going to focus on in Q4, which starts from January and runs through to March? So January to March. So number one, which I think is quite straightforward, is our financial review. I think it's best practice for primary care networks to proactively review their income for the last 3 months and also to plan for the next 3 months, which will take you up until your end of year accounts. And in doing this activity, it will help us understand how much cash we've got in the bank, how much money is owed to us, any outstanding invoices. What does the balance look like on our additional role reimbursement scheme? Do we have a significant underspend? Are we potentially going to go overspent? Where are we in relation to our core funding, our leadership and management funding? Do we have any unspent funding from last year's impact and investment fund? All of your day-to-day general accounting lines, review what has been, and review what the planned forecast is, which is going to take you up to the end of the financial year. And this is to help you understand and assess your options. If you have got a huge underspend on your additional role reimbursement scheme, have a discussion. Think about what you can do. Ideally, we want to spend it, but we do need to be realistic and we do need to be sensible because we are using this money to employ primary care network roles and we want to do so because we've really thought it out and we don't want to rush that decision. And also, if you do have a lot of cash in your bank, there will be tax implications on that money. Now, I'm not an accountant, so this is your opportunity to schedule a meeting with your accountant to understand the options available to you, and then also have a meeting. You might want to do that meeting with your financial lead, your clinical director, and a PCN manager, or you may feel that appropriate for your accountant to come along to a PCN management board meeting or dedicated PCN finance meeting. You don't have to do this. You don't have to have your meeting with the accountant in January, but I wouldn't wait until March. I wouldn't wait till the end. So you want to really understand your options, have time to think about it, and then you can make an informed decision. But in the lead up to that meeting, make sure you've dotted the I's, you've crossed the T's, you understand the finances, you've made sure all of the accounting codes are, correct. And this is your opportunity to just, contact the ICB if you're not sure of anything. Just make sure as much as you can, your finances are in order. So many networks fail to do this, and I'm working with networks where we're still trying to unpick what happened in the last financial year. So really take this opportunity to get a handle on things if you feel like they're not. So I think the second area of focus would be to create an annual review. And I think the reason I'm recommending this is that a lot of work goes on behind the scenes in your primary care networks, and it's not always visible. And I think sometimes lots of questions can be asked with who is doing what and is this worth it and what's been the return on investment. And those are all valid questions. And I think your annual review is that final piece of the puzzle that you can produce at the end of the year to showcase how your network has achieved against, hopefully you set some business objectives at the beginning of the year. You will also be able to have a look at how you've progressed against the network DES. Also a really good time to reflect on the network's strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. You can also use this as an opportunity to look at any data points to easily identify what the network has achieved, key strategies to adopt moving forwards, how the network staff feel about their role and their role within the network. And you can conduct like a staff survey. I think that would be a really good opportunity to do that. Make it anonymous so people feel free to be able to share their opinion. One of the kind of frameworks that we like to use at THC is things we need to start doing, things we need to stop doing, and things we need to continue doing. So this can be an opportunity to combine all of that. Do not do this task in isolation. This is not for the manager to go away in a dark corner and to do all this work by themselves. You cannot do this work by yourself. It needs to be a collaborative event, but somebody does need to be the conduit to pull the report together. So hopefully I've given you some examples of what to include in your report. You may also want to include how many appointments generated. Now, the ICB would like to know that some of you guys may have started at the beginning of the year with like 5 additional roles. Now you might have 20. Like that's huge. It should be acknowledged. It should be celebrated. And there'll be lots of lessons learned to support the next phase of growth in your primary care network. Another thing you may want to include in your annual review or annual report is the clinical outcomes of some of your projects, especially around personalised care and health inequalities. So hopefully you've got a few good examples of what to include in your annual report. And see if you can get some patient feedback, or just anytime somebody's messaged you to say this has worked well, or actually any complaints which you've then turned into a success story. All of that information, it would be great if you can compile that and then you and your board kind of presented that back to the network to say, I know it's been a tough year, but this is what we've achieved, and this further lays a foundation to move us forward. Which takes me on to my third kind of priority for what to focus on in quarter 4, and that is to start to build your 2023-24 business plans. You don't have to complete it because we do need to wait for the next DES to drop, which will come hopefully end of March, April time. But there are some things that we can do. We know that we're going to have an increased Rs budget. So we want to think really carefully about what roles do we want to continue to employ. How can the network be positioned to be the best vehicle it can be to truly support our practices? How can we make sure our staff have got the IT infrastructure that is needed? Premises is a huge issue. Some things, or a lot of things, are outside of our control, but what is within our control? I know there are many networks up and down the country that do have access to estates. It's not perfect, but what could be done? So you start to think about your IT estates. You will have a large workforce now that will need some professional development. People will leave, or they may naturally leave. Some people want to progress, to proactively think, what could this look like? And is there any cost associated with this? I know some networks are really considering, do we have the best kind of governance and business structure for our network? I know lots of networks are making the move to become limited companies. So these are questions you really need to consider. And ideally, you want to start having these conversations now. I think succession planning is going to be really important. I know some clinical directors and managers that are looking to move on, but they feel that they can't. They feel that they'll be letting their team down because there isn't anybody to step in and take the reins. Inevitably, somebody will, but it would be great if we could proactively do that. So I know some networks, some CDs have said, I am stepping away in the new financial year. So who is interested in this position? So you can have a nice long handover and put some training in place. The other big ticket item that many of us are talking about is, what does an integrated neighbourhood team look like to us? What's already in place that we can build on? What conversations are happening in the ICB? Where do we need to position ourselves? What's going on in the community? Have we got strong relationships with secondary care? like how can we start to integrate, and what would that look like for our network? So those conversations taking place, which may form part of your business plan. This last quarter is just about having those conversations and starting to think about what could it look like as we move into next year. So we've proactively got a plan and we're not caught off on the back foot, or we're not working to a plan. We're just literally trying to tick off the elements of the DES and the Impact and Investment Fund. And I think primary care networks personally are so much more than those facets now. So hopefully that is helpful. I think the three main activities for us to focus on in quarter four is the financial review, creating an annual review, and think about our business plan for 2023 to 24.